Hi, welcome to another endorsement interview with the Times editorial board. Here today we have a number of people speaking on behalf of the Lan-Oak Park District referendum. We'll get into the details in that in a minute. But first let me introduce who we have in the room. First you'll see on camera we have Chelsea Smith, Patrick Gulotta, and Joanne Kajewski. Also in the room we've got Therese Griffiths, Jim Kajewski, Doug Ross, of course, me, editorial page editor here, Jeanette Locke, our Illinois editor, Bob Heiss, our editor, and Brian Vernellis is always on the other side of the lens. Why don't we get started with the details of the referendum and what it really means to the taxpayer and the
Sure.
resident.
Thanks. First of all, thanks for having us. We appreciate the opportunity. My name is Patrick Gulotta. I currently sit on the Lan-Oak Park Board as one of the commissioners, and this year serving as the Park Board president. What this referendum means, excuse me, to the Park Board itself is with this tax increase, it will give the Park District roughly about $380,000 to $400,000 in additional income annually. The Park Board has taken the position that all money from that referendum, if it is successful, will only be used towards capital improvements. So things of new playgrounds, new amenities in the parks, new picnic shelters, some development of some existing property that we have that is kind of just a grassland and open space area. So it's developing all of those park areas by having these additional funds.
Okay, and over the years you've tried this in the past, what's the result been so far?
Last year in 2013 was our most successful attempt, and we lost by 73 votes. So we feel that last year was the first year that we started this community group. It's called PARK. People Advocating Recreation for Kids, and that's what the other guests here are representing. They're all part of that community group as well. It made a big impact on getting the word out and being able to really bring the information to the residents, as opposed to from the Park District side only being able to give out just straight factual information.
Right. So with Park, are you seeing more support, less support? What are you doing to get the word out?
Well, we've been handing out flyers. We passed out flyers at the big festival, the autumn festival that we had in Lansing over the weekend. We passed out flyers, these flyers like what we gave you today, that's showing the approximate increase to various homes in the town of Lansing. We passed those out at a big chicken dinner that TF South had on Saturday or Friday evening, along with their last home game and senior night. So we've been trying to reach people that way, and just by word of mouth of going out and talking to neighbors and stuff about how this will increase the value of your home, because if you have good parks, a lot of times it brings more people into the community and just makes it a better place to be. I mean, I don't have any young children myself. I'm a grandmother and a great-grandmother, so it's not, not going to benefit me that way of my children going to the park to play. But my husband and I both use the fitness center in Lansing all the time, and we think it's a great place, and we want to see the park stay great.
Okay. Chelsea, maybe you could talk to how well this message is being received in the community.
It's really positive. I think it is. I'm young. I'm only 24, and I think that like through social media and all that, we're getting attention through younger people my age. I've lived in Lansing my whole life, and I'd like to see it stay and actually get better. And I'd like to maybe own a house in Lansing one day. And I think it's important to get that word out so that we can actually make it better and make people want to live there and stay,
Okay. Patrick, you
Yep.
probably would be better able to speak to, what amenities of which parks, are the most dire need of.
Yeah, absolutely. So the board's number one priority would be the redevelopment and demolish of the old outdoor swimming pool at Bach Park. That outdoor pool has been closed for a number of years. I think we're close to maybe 7.5, 8 years at this point. So redevelopment of that park is priority number one. Our next couple priorities is actually starting to put some playgrounds back into parks that had playgrounds prior to, and they have exceeded their life expectancy and were removed, and putting new playgrounds back into those parks is our next biggest priority. And then we'd like to start seeing some new amenities put in. There's been a fair amount of increased interest in having a dog park, which a lot of communities are doing, which is something the board is in favor of, and we're looking at being able to try and do that with this referendum. And then as well as our picnic shelters are beginning to show their age, and they are a great asset that are used almost every weekend during the summer months. So it's just maintaining all of those assets and then improving and adding some additional new amenities.
Now the critics will say, why aren't you doing this all along?
The Park District from the beginning annually has worked off of a capital improvement budget of anywhere from $120,000 to $150,000. And the Park District itself services 26 parks and roughly 180 acres. That $150,000 doesn't stretch very far when you have that much to cover. For instance, an average size playground, new from start to finish, is anywhere from $74,000 to $80,000 depending on the amenities that you put into it.
So when you put a new playground in, are you, can you describe the process?
Sure. So from the board standpoint, we'll start, from a planning committee and begin to look at the playground and look at the area that we want to do. We work along with our director, our current director is John Wilson, in regards to his recommendations on the age of the playground itself. And what I mean by age is the ages that it will service. So most of our playgrounds, we always try to put in there that they are from the ages of 3 to 12 years old. So there's something within that amenity that will service that kind of age group from an activity standpoint of the playground. And then then the planning process begins. It's finding out what amenities best fit, where the playground, if there hasn't been one there, that we're actually replacing, and then beginning that process of planning and acquiring the playground and finishing everything out with landscaping at the end of it.
Okay. How much citizen involvement do you have in working on the parks? Whether it's mowing grass or pulling weeds or supervising.
From a day-to-day, I would say at this point it is limited. It's just we don't have a large volunteer base. Not something that the Park District's ever been opposed to. It's just the community. We've had some interest, and it kind of comes in spurts. So when there are things that are available and the group is available, then definitely we take advantage of that, and always are. And that's kind of been my goal the last couple of years as being on the board, is redeveloping and reworking those relationships with the community groups, the Copper Muggers, the Lions Club, those kind of things. So it's working through all those relationships and trying to spark a little more interest and to help with the parks and seeing what they can do for us.
Okay. Could you go over the chart that you
Sure.
brought?
So the map that we brought is a representation of the town of Lansing, and what we've done, excuse me, with the help of the community group, is we've acquired the 2013 second installment of everyone's tax bill, of these residents' tax bill, and we have put that into a calculator that accounts for the increase that we are asking for, which is 10 cents per $100,000 assessed. And it shows a approximate annual cost to each household on what that would be. That calculator is available on the Lan-Oak Park District's website as well, and there are 2 tabs in there, one for those that live in Thornton Township as well as those that live in Bloom Township, to calculate exactly what each household would be seeing as an annual increase. And as you can see, it's difficult at any time to ever ask for a tax increase. The amount we're asking for is fairly minimal with a huge impact for us. as far as income in. And you know, from a community group and from the Park District standpoint, you can see that, you know, you look at it, it's about the average cost of maybe a dinner out, a night out, maybe a movie or an afternoon matinee for a couple of kids kind of things nowadays. It's, you know, so it's not as much as I think a lot of people anticipate it being. And that was, you know, that's why we went back to the map this year. Everyone felt that that was a great tool and a great resource to really give them an idea of what that impact would mean to them.
Okay. You've got, what, 29 or 30 here.
Yeah.
How many homes total are there?
About 11, I think it's about 11,000 homes in Lansing.
Okay. And what's the reaction when you show them this particular map?
Most of them that I have come across, their initial thing, they ask, is that monthly? And I say, no, that's annually. And they're like, oh, that's doable. I can do that. Like, you're not asking for a lot here. You know, and then when you tell them that, you know, it's on our end, it's an increase of about $380,000 to $400,000 more a year. That's a big impact. You know, and it's been my goal and the goal of the park board to, you know, to let residents know that you are going to see an impact. There are things we're going to do with it. That's why we started listing out projects planned. So that it's, you know, it's taking that kind of consumer mentality. Everyone wants to know, if I give you money, what am I going to get for it? And we've made the commitment. We want to let residents know you're going to get something. If this referendum is successful, although the district won't see the money until the second installment of the 2015 tax billing, there are projects that we are going to move forward with immediately. You know, the Bach Park redevelopment, so that's currently in development that we've also looked at, and we've applied for a park grant through the state of Illinois. We have not heard anything on that grant. We haven't heard yes, we haven't heard no, and that's all part of the state's grant program, where the governor had committed, I believe it's roughly $50 million in grant money. So the Park District, we applied for a $2.5 million grant to redevelop that park, and our share of that is $625,000.
Now, Bach Park, you mentioned, you know, of course, has the closed swimming pool.
Correct.
How much of a safety issue is this?
I'd say currently, right now, it's not. Our staff building and our maintenance crew building is right next to it. So there's eyes on it every day. They do check and make sure that all the gates, it's fenced in, that it is taken care of and it is secured so that there are no accidents there. And you know, to my knowledge, we've never had anybody actually even hop the fence and attempt to get in there or hurt themselves. So you know, it's an eyesore, and it's time for it to go. It's a long time for it to go.
Okay. You mentioned the website to go to look up your own household, you know, punch in your own address.
Sure.
What's the address?
It's Lan-Oak-Park-District.org, and then on the front page there is a link that says, I believe it says referendum, more information on the referendum, and then it's a link through there that gets you to the calculator and the additional information on the referendum.
Okay.
It seems you have a challenging job here, because even if you can get folks to realize this isn't that much of an increase, this ballot question is so confusing that do you feel that's been the, you know, or how are you attacking this ballot question to let people know that what it really is about? I mean,
yeah, it's a great question. It's part of the education process. You know, and so as when we go out, that's why we've made the ballot available, and with the help of the community groups, they can kind of go through it, and they get a lot of their questions directly are, what do I vote? They want to know, because it is confusing, and it's, you know, it's written to the letter of the law, and it's written the way it has to be, but it you know, it's kind of difficult to go through. So that's part of the process, is just educating people, putting it out there. With these guys and with everybody, it's, you know, social media has been a huge impact, and it's because you constantly post it. People are always out there. People are always on Facebook, and they're looking through things, and they're, you know, so it's making it available for everybody, so people kind of understand it.
Okay. And so obviously your message is to vote yes,
Yes.
regardless of whether you understand what all the legalese is. So,
Yeah.
Jeanette, did you have questions?
What are you doing differently this year besides this map that you didn't do last time when it failed?
We didn't have as much of an impact with social media and our younger voting group. And that's why Chelsea and Teresa are here, is because reaching out to a lot of younger kids, younger adults, I apologize, not young kids, young adults, you know, they're home, whether they're going to school in the area now, because there's a lot of opportunities here from a school standpoint, or they're here and they're working. They're part of the voting population. So it's getting that word out. You know, I ran into 4 young individuals who are just over the age of 18 at the festival this weekend, and they weren't really sure about it. They took every bit of information I can give them. They want it. They eat it up. You know, these guys have been phenomenal coming to meetings and going back out and regurgitating and respreading that word, and that's been key.
Joanne, you mentioned the demographic, you know,
Right.
and why don't you address how the demographics, you know, any long-term changes and how you think this might particularly affect Lansing?
Well, we do have an older community in part of the neighborhoods from what it was, and that's why I made the point about, you know, I don't have any young children in my household, but we do have, you know, grandchildren and things, and even if you don't have grandchildren living in the town of Lansing, it's still to your benefit to get something like this passed, because it improves the value of your home and makes other people want to move into some of the houses that people are trying to sell. You know, because some of the people are wanting to relocate to a warmer climate or something, and they are trying to sell their homes and move to a different state. So it's, you know, it's to the value of the whole community of Lansing to pass something like this, because if you have good parks, it keeps the value of your home up and makes it an ideal place to live. We've lived here for a long time and we're not planning on moving, but I know there are people that are, you know, making plans to move out of the community just because they're getting older and they don't want to deal with the changing climate and things like that.
What, do you know your demographics, like what percentage of the population is like under 25 and what percentage is over 50 or anything like that?
I do not off the top of my
I was
head.
gonna say I don't personally.
I don't know. I know that we've started looking at some of that so that we can target different audiences when we are going door to door and when we are starting to do our canvassing and stuff like that, but I don't know those numbers off the top of my head.
So you're knocking on doors. What kind of reaction are you getting? Is it typical?
It's honestly mixed. You know, our big push on door knocking is going to be these next couple of weekends as we get closer to the election. But a lot of the folks that I've ran into over the weekend at the festival, I actually had a couple people who said, I voted no the last 2 times, and this time I'm voting yes. And they shared their reasons. Some of it is the cost has gone down. You know, the home assessed value has caused that to change a little bit, and it's gone to a number that they feel is more manageable for their budget. One person just said, you know, I really just feel that it's a need, and you know, a lot of people have told me that there's a lot of different parks that need the need and need the funds, and so I've changed my mind and I'm willing to make the investment into the community, which is great. There are some that, you know, no matter what, they're against it, and I think some of it comes with, you know, as individuals and as homeowners, we don't always have control of our taxes. You know, so that, to them, that's their ability to have that control. And no matter what you say to them and how much positive you can encourage them and show them it's going to come out of this passing, their minds are not going to change. You know, but again, I go back to that number. It's 73. That's, you know, and if we, you know, if we can keep getting a few more of those 2 and 3s that didn't vote for it last time, and you know, a little more of the younger generation involved in voting, I think, you know, we're at that threshold where we're right at that tipping point where I think this can, you know, push in our favor.
How many times have you tried?
This is the 2nd time since I've been on the board, and I've been on the board now 3 years, and I believe there was 3 other attempts prior.
Okay, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I believe this is our 5th time.
Okay. Is there anything that we didn't ask that we should have asked?
Not that I can think of. You guys have anything? Anything from you guys' standpoint?
Please.
I have a comment.
Sure.
We've lived in Lansing for 52 years, and Lansing has always been a kids' town. This is for kids. And I think when people realize, just like the name of the committee, you know, it's for kids. It's not for adults, it's for kids. I think that's a big push on this one, and I think that's going to be a successful aspect of it, because you cannot deny children, you know. So I think that's a good thing.
Okay. Well, I'm afraid that's all the time we have for the Times editorial board, and Patrick, of course, representing the park board, and the others representing the park organization. Thank you for viewing.